Today, we learnt of an extraordinary revelation concerning General Mark Milley, Biden's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The Washington Post reports that during the Trump administration, General Milley secretly called his Chinese counterpart twice over concerns that President Trump might spark a war with China. Once in October before the US election and a second time on January 8 after the US Capitol riot. General Milley sought to reassure the Chinese Communist Party that the United States was stable and not going to attack, and if there was to be an attack, he would alert his counterpart ahead of time. Joining me now from the US is documentary filmmaker Ami Horowitz. Ami, thank you for joining us tonight. Put simply, this sounds a little like treason.
Well, treason is a very specific term. It does sound treasonous, but I'll tell you what is for sure. It is usurping the chain of command, and more importantly, it is undermining one of the most sacrosanct part of American democracy, which is civilian control of the military. And that's really the most troubling part of this whole debate and discussion. And it's quite scary. At the end of the day, when it comes down to the reason why the president is, in fact, the leader of the armed forces. And for him to do two things. One is to have this discussion he had with Speaker Nancy Pelosi when she just destroyed the president, have a military commander talk to a partisan leader and undermining the president of the United States is in itself alarming, very alarming in of itself. But compound that with a call to his Chinese counterpart and to undermine the president of the United States to the Chinese military, and then openly say that we are going to tell you before there's an attack. It's incredible. It's astonishing. And Mark Milley has shown himself to be a political animal. Okay, we have seen him time and again in the news about his decisions he's made politically, including his defense of critical race theory, his talk of white rage, his trying of reimagining the U.S. military. He was problematic well before this. Now, of course, this is all the grain of salt in the sense that we have to see this is all true. This is coming from Bob Woodward's book. Assuming it is, of course, I don't see how he has to immediately resign. I mean, first of all, if President Joe Biden had any kind of backbone, he would fire him with prejudice, a dishonorable discharge from the military, which is what he deserved. But if he, General Milley, had any shred of self-respect, he would resign immediately. But it's incredibly dangerous, appalling to see this go down.
Well, Milley has been under pressure over the Biden administration's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, where they literally abandoned US citizens and Afghan allies who were promised safe passage out of the country. General Milley's fingerprints are all over that botched withdrawal. How does he still have a job? But why do we even need to be talking about these latest revelations when the Afghanistan issue should have ended his career right then and there?
Oh, yeah. Afghanistan. Forgot about that. I mean, yes. I mean, look, this was the most disastrous military adventure we've seen in decades, certainly in my lifetime. And yes, he was the architect of it. Well, if the question is, well, why was his career not ended at that point? Well, first of all, Joe Biden has a penchant for throwing people on the bus. So I wouldn't be shocked had he done it. But the issue is that the president and Milley are politically simpatico. They have the same theology when it comes to running the United States of America and their view of the armed forces that you support. So he's not going to do it because they're cut of the same cloth. But absolutely, I mean, the Afghanistan debacle, he was in charge of it completely. And look, there's no question he should, if he had a shred of self-respect, he would have resigned from that debacle. But compounded with this, and I don't see how he's still sitting in the position that he is as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, one of the most, if not the most important military position that our country has.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, onto a different issue. It's been over a year since the George Floyd killing, the murder in Minneapolis, and the BLM riots it sparked around the US. And now we are seeing, Army, a dramatic shift in policing in Minneapolis, where the police have taken a hands-off approach, with officers making fewer traffic stops and drug and gun checks. And surprise, surprise, crime is on the rise dramatically. This was predictable, wasn't it, Army? When you go after the police, when you want to defund the police, they do reduce their interactions, and the poorest communities suffer the most.
We've seen this for years. This is not just in Minneapolis. Minneapolis is more acute because of the hard left politics of the city. But of course, we've seen this in my hometown, Los Angeles, my current city, New York, San Francisco. It's called the Ferguson effect, because that's the first time that we saw it. Where, again, if you go back to that riot in Ferguson outside St. Louis, which of course I was there, because have riot will travel, and I saw it firsthand. Yeah, if you're a police officer and you're putting your life on the line to protect the citizen, and what you're getting in return is possibility of jail time for doing your job, what other reaction do you expect? Basic physics, every action has an opposite and equal reaction. This is the reaction that we're seeing. And we're seeing crime jump dramatically in every major city run by the left. Baltimore, New York, Detroit, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Portland, Seattle. I go on and on. I can show off my geographical acumen of large cities in the U.S. But they all are feeling the same thing. Massive crime and police that are having detachment. It's so interesting, because we just had the 9/11 memorial, right, in commemoration after 20 years. And when this awful thing happened to New York, our first responders, in particular our police officers, were hailed universally as heroes. Universally. Fast forward 20 years, and there's a segment of the population which villainizes the police and condemns the police. So if you're a police officer, I talk to police officers all the time. They're a gap, and what do you expect them to do? They're not going to. Why would they put their life on the line when their reward is possible jail time or being villainized by their population they're trying to protect? It's all terrible. And this is the obvious reaction. Like you said, it was obvious.